Morning. Thank you everybody for coming this morning. Our first virtual local session.
Thanks. Well, clearly there are other people in the room who love coffee as much as I do. So hi, I'm Emma and I love coffee. So what Denver doesn't really know is that I actually was a local. So I was matriculated in East London, but just a bit of a background, quick, try and keep it short and sweet. Synopsis of who I am is that I went and studied in PE, and then I went and studied and worked in PE, and then I went and built my corporate career in Cape Town in corporate retail, and worked my way up to management level. And as one does, you start realizing that you have more to give, and there's something else that I'm meant to be doing, and needed to follow that passion. I'm sure some of you would relate. So when it became time to go on my own, I started working with smaller businesses around their business strategy and thinking. And then I started broadening my horizons into more corporate culture and helping companies build their internal culture. And now I do external branding as well. So it's looking at the whole brand experience. And that's the quick synopsis of who I am. I managed to get through that quite quickly. But today is more about what coffee and branding have in common. So here's the spoiler alert, is that coffee, like branding, is a process. So as much as hopefully you all enjoyed a good cup of coffee this morning, yeah, like me, when it comes to coffee, it doesn't just magically appear as a beautiful cup on your table. There's a bit more of a process. Well, that's unless you have an espresso and you press a button and then suddenly your coffee is there. But if you really want a good cup of coffee, then you're going to come to a place like Ginger & Co. And the coffee that you get here has gone through an incredible process. And it's a process that's very similar to the branding process. So I've used that as my analogy for today. So as you'll see, we're going to go through from the end cup of coffee all the way how it's ground, beans, and right to starting our journey in a Costa Rican jungle. And that's where your coffee is grown. So coffee beans look like this and grow into that. And that's how coffee starts. But coffee is kind of like wine. So anyone else here use a coffee and wine fanatic? Yeah, okay, good. I'm not alone. Okay. So just like we have different types of wines, you've got your Chardonnay and your Pinotage and your Shiraz. I'm not sure what your flavor of choice is. Vanilla. Oh, thank goodness. I was like, that was new. Merlot, yes, lovely. So similarly, you've got different varieties of beans as well. So you don't just get one type of bean, off it goes and gets roasted and blended. No, you have different types of beans. And just a quick rundown to the two most common beans, you get Robusta and Arabica. So the R is Robusta, A, Arabica, got that, and M is mixed. And because this is not the clearest in terms of color, I'm just going to quickly show you. So this is where Robusta generally, like if I'm stereotyping now, is grown. This is where, South America is where your Arabica is generally grown, although there's a bit of a crossover in Africa as well. And my husband says that the Arabica from South America is better quality. So he's more of the coffee nerd. I just like my coffee, like I like my wine. So the Arabica in South America is better quality. Robusta is not too bad, but more easy drinking. So that's a side note for yourselves. So why am I telling you all of this? Is that different types of beans are grown in different regions, and just like wines, you know, if you're trying different types of Chardonnays or different types of Merlots, if you're getting them from different regions, they have a different taste. Coffee has a different taste too. So that was quite interesting. And that's because of the region, climates. As you can see, most coffee is grown in the equator, and the different species that are grown in those regions. So now our coffee farmer takes these green beans, gets rid of the husks, and then he's left with a green bean like this. Then they sort it and pack it. Well, first they sort it into different grades and different quality, and then they package it and send it off to the local roaster. Well, not local roaster, more like international roaster. So at this stage in my talk, you're probably thinking, so what does this have to do with branding? Your branding is similar to the coffee growing process in that it has raw ingredients as well. At the core of your brand, there are different things and different aspects of who you are and what your business is about and who you're targeting that will set your business apart from every other business. And that I sort of distill into brand foundation and your brand strategy. So you need a foundation of the brand, and then you build on that and look at what your brand strategy is going to be. But I know I'm just saying a whole lot of words, so let's make it a little bit more tangible. So your brand foundation, so this is the core raw ingredients of your brand. What is your unique selling point? Who's your ideal client? What is the brand direction? And what are the offers that you're going to be giving that ideal client? So that's like the core of your brand. And that's your really high quality bean, isn't it? Then, once you've got that foundation in place, it's time to unpack the rest of your brand strategy. And when I do a full brand strategy, you'll see there's like a whole bunch of slides. Some of the brand strategies I can do when the PDF gets to the client, it's like a 30 to 50 page document about your business. So it's almost like a dossier. But it goes through an analysis of what your brand is about and where you are currently, where you want to be positioned. What does the brand architecture look like? Looking at a user analysis and who is the person that actually is going to be interacting with this brand. What are your competitors up to? And how are you set apart? What does that marketing funnel look like? Taking cognizance of your user journey and how does the client progress through the journey to make sure that you give them a good experience, which I'll tell you about later, as well as the brand attributes. So what's the look and feel, the voice and tone, what is the culture, all of that sort of stuff comes together to form a brand strategy. So as you can hear, it's pretty in-depth. But those are the key raw ingredients, and the challenge is, because there's so many awesome things about who we are as business owners and awesome things about what our businesses are about, the challenge is to distill what those key ingredients are and what makes our business so unique and different to everybody else in the marketplace, because obviously that's what we want to do. We want to stand out. But let's get back to coffee. And those green beans have been now sent to our coffee roaster. And the coffee roaster will take the green bean and it'll go through a whole roasting process, which I'm going to tell you about now. This is a picture of a drum roaster. I had to remember because you see, like I said, the husband's the coffee nerd. I just like my coffee. But as he clearly reminded me, this is a drum roaster, and you either have drum roasting or fluid bed roasting, or it's hot air is the other word, but this is more consistent. So those Costa Rican green beans are now in that drum roaster and they're getting roasted. So a coffee roaster will have his own unique recipe, and he will take it on certain heat over a certain period or a certain timeline, and that will create the right flavor and intensity in that coffee bean. And just for interest's sake, you get light roast to medium to dark, and the dark is that really dark, bitter taste of coffee versus a light, easy drinking coffee. Then what our coffee roaster does is he'll take a certain percentage of the Costa Rican Arabica, and then he'll take a certain percentage of the African Arabica, and then he'll blend it with a certain percentage of his Robusta from India. And he'll blend it together to create his special blend of beans. And that special blend is why the coffee that you get here at Ginger & Co. tastes different to the coffee that you get at Roxy. Well, actually, there's a whole other process that makes it different, but just in beans itself, there's a different flavor that you'll pick up from Ginger & Co. versus Roxy versus Seattle, as an example. And that's all due to the special blend. Similarly, your brand has its own special blending roasting process. So when we start with creating a brand, we take all that information and all those beautiful raw ingredients that we've now distilled as this is what your brand is about. And now it's time to really create a visual direction or look at, like, what's the way forward? How's this brand going to really look? And what are the options? So, to show you what I mean, this is one company. Her business is African Translation Agency. So what they do is clients come from overseas, they come to Africa, and they need their documents translated into 54 African languages, because yes, there are 54 different African languages. And she will translate their work for them. But for her brand, she wanted the brand essence to be efficient, credible, and valuable. Now you take those three words, and they can look very different. And that's why I wanted to show you these mood boards, because those three words could be translated into quite a minimal brand. Those three words could have an African feel with a bit of a modern touch. Those three words could come through, you can't really see it in that image over there, but there's quite a lot of copper and luxe detailing there. Or there's quite a modern, fresh feel coming through in the bottom mood board. So the reason why we start here is because, can you imagine if I start creating this brand for her and she's like, oh hell no, I wanted that. So you need to get a clear sense of what that direction is going to be, and how do we distill your key essence into a visual direction. Okay, so just like the special blend of coffee beans, you have a special blend in your own brand and the own unique way that you're going to bring your brand to life. And we call these brand elements, so they're the pieces of the brand. Elements like your color, your brand fonts or typography, the different logos and submarks that you're going to use in your branding, patterns and textures, because those enhance the brand experience, as well as your brand imagery. Then different icons, you know, like on a website you've got different buttons and people design them differently, that's an icon. Or other elements, so like some people have a brand mascot, like a cartoon character that's a brand mascot. Then the other elements that people often forget about, because they're not as visual, are your brand story or that brand message that is underpinning your brand, as well as the words you're using, or the copy as we call it. So those are all the brand elements that become your special blend. And in this client's case, I just wanted to show you that we've got the same mood board. So she went for more of the African, modern African feel. So she went for a blend of both those looks. Then we said, okay, so there are different color palettes that can come through. And I'm sorry that the colors are not as vivid as they are on my screen, but you're welcome to look afterwards. But you can see just at a snapshot that this is quite bright, that's pretty muted, and then this is very neutral. And just looking at the color palette, you get a sense of what the brand is. But when you see it in action, and you can see that just by changing color, same type, same style, but just changing color, you get a different brand feel. So that's why I think it's the most, like, color is one of the most underestimated aspects of a brand, because it can really underpin what your brand looks and feels like. And you shift that, and you're shifting quite a bit. Side note. So yes, this is color and typography. Those are some of the brand elements, and how you need to get really clear on what your special blend looks like and stick to it. So here's hers. You'll see that she's gone for the brighter palette. Her image, this is Kwachi. He's her little zebra, and he's the brand mascot. And then you can see how it translates through to her typography, as well as her zebra pattern in her gradient as well. And now that is what she uses as, like, those are the elements that she will use as her special recipe when she's creating her brand going forward. But that special blend of coffee now, we're back to the coffee, that has been packaged in a beautiful packet, has gone to the coffee shop. But this isn't where the coffee ends, is it? You're not going to get a saucer with coffee beans sprinkled over it and dished up to you. No, we want the coffee experience. So let's go into the next stage of coffee, and that's when we head to our coffee shop. So the reason we love having Ginger & Co. coffee is because of a variety of factors. So the beans are one thing, but there are a whole host of other things that will impact whether you get a good cup of coffee or not. They are how it was ground. If you take the coffee the coffee bean and you grind it too fine, it's going to get burnt in the coffee and it's going to leave a bitter taste in your mouth. If you grind it too weak, like you use the Bodum coffee in an espresso machine, it runs through like water and there's no crema and it's a bit like meh. So the grind has quite a huge role to play in the experience, as well as how the barista pours the espresso. So what happens in these machines, where's your machine? Is it hiding over there? So what happens in your coffee machine is that they'll start off with an espresso shot, and if they pour too long espresso or too short espresso, that's going to affect the flavor of your coffee. Whether you have a single or a double, like apparently you gave me a double this morning, hey? Yeah, I'm buzzing. That's the difference between a double and a single.
We ran out of singles.
Yeah, you see. Oh, wow. Then the next thing that's going to impact the experience of your coffee is how you take it, how much milk is added. So whether you're having a black coffee or an espresso shot, or whether you're having a cappuccino or a milkier latte, all of those will impact that experience of the cup of coffee you have. And finally, my personal favorite, is the barista touch. It's the awesome artwork they put on their cappuccino before they serve it. And the smile on their face. Okay. So taking your special blend of brand, there are a couple of things in how you deliver it to your clients that are also going to be shifting the brand experience. And that here we're talking about the brand collateral. So how's your brand going to show up? You've got those elements, but how are you using those elements? And is it creating a consistent message? So there are different places that you're going to use your brand collaterals, in print and stationery, like letterheads and business cards. Social media, so Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Then on your website, signage, it's the signs you have on your building, as well as wayfinding. So if you go into a building and you need to know where the toilets are, or you want to go upstairs. I worked in corporate retail. It was a five-story building. And when they rebranded, they took a purple strip and they purple stripped the entire, what is it called? Stairwell. Yeah? Stairwell. They purple stripped the whole stairwell and then put the numbers of each floor on the stairwell. Subtle brand reinforcement. That's wayfinding. And then obviously your internal culture. I say obviously for me, it's not so obvious for everybody else. But the way that your staff are and interact with your clients, that impacts on the brand experience you're creating. So take this client. Remember we said it was efficient, credible, and what was the third one? Let's see who's remembered. There we go. Valuable. Okay. So if her staff are interacting with her clients and they're not being quick, they're not showing up as knowledgeable, and they're not adding value, that's going to impact the client experience and create something that's inconsistent, isn't it? Okay. So you want to make sure that your brand experience is consistent right the way through. And that's what creates a good brand experience. I think I'm going a little bit ahead because Ginger & Co. have made this beautiful cup of coffee for you. But if it sat on the counter and got cold and did nothing, then that's not really going to be a good brand experience, is it? No. So there are a couple of things in how your brand is delivered. And I love Seth Godin's quote on what a brand actually is. A brand is a set of expectations, memories, and stories, and relationships that, taken together, account for a consumer's decision to choose one business or one product over another. Your brand is an experience, not a logo. And so the brand experience needs to follow through at every touch point. And I often use this analogy of the coffee shop to really explain what a brand is about. So it's perfect that we're here. There's one thing when you get your cup of coffee delivered, but that's not what decides whether you come to one coffee shop versus another. It's how the seat feels. It's the noise and the ambience. It's the people you're having the coffee with. The whole feeling that the place creates. The smile of when somebody brings you their coffee. And how the barista puts, whether they put the fern or the heart or a teddy bear on your coffee or not. I mean, that's key for me. But the experience is created at every touch point. So, if there are 3 things I would love for you to take away with you today. 1, remember the foundation and the strategy that your brand is built on. What makes you unique and different from everybody else? How are you standing out from everybody else? Then stick consistently to your brand elements, that special recipe that you have. Make sure that's consistent. And lastly, the intensity of your brand experience. Make sure it runs through every touch point of your business. And that's me done. Thank you.